Hi, I'm John Ray with Haven Home Health and Therapy, and today we're going to talk about range of motion. We're going to focus first on upper extremity range of motion. The reason why we decided to put this video together was we've had some caregivers out there that have to provide range of motion for their family member. We wanted to give them a little bit of guidance on what things to look out for and what things we can do to protect their loved one and protect themselves. Some loved ones are heavier and bigger than others, and their caregivers may be relatively small. So I always tell the caregivers the first thing you want to do whenever you're looking to do range of motion for someone is to make sure that you have yourself in a good position. So if they're on a low bed and you're having to lean over them to do that range of motion, sometimes it might be better to get them scooted closer to the edge of the bed and maybe sit down in a chair. For me, like if I don't have a bed that I can adjust the height on, sometimes I'll, just spread my stance out so I'm sitting a little bit lower. The big thing is that, your center of gravity is as close to them as you can get it, so that you're not having to lean way over them and you can kind of get a good position. Whenever I'm doing range of motion of the shoulder, I usually try to center myself to the shoulder joint itself. And then as we go through the upper extremity, I'm going to work kind of proximal to distal or closer to the body and further away out to the hands. But we will talk about some things that we may want to do at first. If you have somebody who has what's called tone, they're very, very stiff. Their muscles kind of fight you when you're trying to stretch them out. There are a couple things that we can do to kind of help start this process out. So one of the things, if they can help themselves, sometimes I'll have them clasp their hands together and then bring their arms up in front of them. And sometimes I have to guide them to do that. And then I'll slowly just rock the hands from side to side. If they're not able to do that and you're not able to get them in that position, then I will actually take the extremity and I will put my hands in like so, making sure that I'm getting my hands between the fingers. There's something about separating those fingers out that helps to get the tone to relax just a little bit. And I'll do just some slight abduction and rotation here, just like so. And that's just to kind of start things off. We're really not getting into the range of motion part of it yet. It's just about trying, if you have somebody with high tone, to kind of get that started. Okay, so the shoulder. It has the most mobility, the least stability, which means that we want to be real careful about our range of motion. The first thing, I'm going to move them into what's called flexion, which is just raising the arm up. You might find that some people have some pain right in about this area. You want to just stay short of that. Some people have what's called impingement syndrome, where two bones are actually pinching on the muscles and nerves in that area. So you want to keep them within a pain-free range of motion whenever you're taking them through their range. Okay. Now, normal is about 180 degrees for some people. A lot of people at a certain age don't have that kind of range of motion. So just going above up to say 135, 150 is okay. It's all about just getting the range and making sure you're keeping them pain-free. I always tell people, if you're going to come out to the side for abduction, you want to externally rotate the shoulder, so bringing it out to the side. And then I usually only come about to 90 degrees. If they don't have pain and they can tolerate going higher, I will, but a lot of folks have problems in this area. So I don't really push. I'm not putting a lot of pressure here. Now, if you have somebody with a lot of tone and you're trying to get them into flexion, and it feels like you're kind of fighting them, you may be moving too quickly. You've got a lot of nerves in the muscle itself that will kind of fight you with high tone. So what I do is I'll go through the range of motion extremely slowly, and that seems to let the tone relax a little bit, and I'm able to get a little bit more range of motion. If I tried to move fast, you'd feel a really strong reaction from the reflex muscles, and they would fight you the whole way. And so moving much slower with your range of motion will help with that considerably. Okay, so we talked about flexion, we talked about external rotation with abduction, okay, and then with external rotation, usually I'll bring them forward just a little bit and come out to the side. Again, pain-free range of motion is important. And then internal rotation, again, be very careful with this particular movement. You can injure somebody's shoulder, okay? So now we're going to focus on the elbow. You want to see if they can bend the arm up. And then this is where we run into a lot of problems, is range of motion with extension. Some people do not have good extension at the elbow, and if they have a lot of tone, this is where a lot of contractures start to occur. And so bringing that arm out into extension, again, I'll come out if it seems like I'm moving too fast, I'm getting a lot of resistance, I'll slow down, and then I'll just put some light pressure. Whenever you're working with somebody and your grip on them is real important. It has to be kind of a gentle grip. If you're applying too much pressure and it's a little bit painful, you will get more resistance from that. It's not necessarily from them, it's just a reaction they're having to the discomfort. And I've even gone so far as to, let me grab a pillow here. I've even gone so far as to put a pillow between me and them and trying to extend the arm with a little less, it's a little more comfortable position for them, a little less pressure directly on them. Okay, wrist range of motion, I'm just trying to work on extension and flexion. If you have somebody with a lot of tone and the fingers are really digging into the fist, then sometimes I'll have to try to curl my fingers underneath to try to hook them. I'll bring the wrist into extension, which will allow you to kind of get under there a little bit more. And then instead of pulling on the fingers, I'm actually extending the wrist until I get a little bit more range of motion in those fingers. And then sometimes I'm able to even extend the fingers. If I can get the fingers up enough, again, I'm going to try to separate those fingers. That helps to reduce tone, and then bringing them as much into neutral as possible. Contractures at the hand and wrist are very difficult to deal with. If you're dealing with a true contracture, you need to talk to your doctor and have a trained professional come in and work on that contracture. There may need to be some splinting or some taping done to kind of help deal with that. So as a caregiver, sometimes it's hard to recognize what's normal or not normal, but we want to try to have as much physician intervention with this process, so that if you're just maintaining range of motion, that's okay for a caregiver. If you're trying to return range of motion, you need to have a trained professional help you with that process. Okay, the next video we're going to focus on lower extremity range of motion and how to go about that process. Thanks so much for watching.